reading licensing agreements so you don't have to. Again. Hello everyone, anyone, and welcome to the Week Air Review. You can call me beating a dead horse, because today I am redoing a video from all the way back in December of 2018 comparing a variety of royalty-free music licensing subscription services for YouTubers, filmmakers, podcasters, etc. Now, I've got some background to give, but if you are just here for the head-to-head, I have added chapter markers in the description/play bar of the video, so feel free to skip. This video ended up being much longer than I expected. Whoops. The truth is, if YouTube allowed you to replace files like Vimeo does, I would not be doing this. I would have just reshot my original comparison and let that be there for the handful of folks each day who end up finding it in search. But I can't do that, and it's gotten really outdated, which makes me feel kind of bad when every so often I get thanked for having done it. I did actually update the captions to clarify some of the inaccuracies in the original text at some point last year, but no one's gonna see that. So I'm doing it all again, but wiser, probably grayer, and wearing actual glasses this time, and we're bringing some new entrants to the pack because the space has evolved in some interesting ways in the interim. I figured that doubling the count was good, so we're up to 6.5 now, and they really run the gamut. We've got Artlist.io, Epidemic Sound, Filmstro, MusicFind, Soundstripe, Storyblocks, and Uppbeat. The new services in particular add something very different to the mix and make the lineup vastly more interesting than it was 2 years ago. So honestly, I'm a little excited to do it all again. But first, some ethical considerations. Since doing the initial video, I have become an affiliate for each of those services, as well as 2 of the new ones I'll be discussing here. That means if you sign up using certain links in the description, I will get a kickback of some sort. I've shortened those links via Bitly and left the rest normal so that you can see where I will and will not benefit. Critically, affiliate programs, or at least these ones, come with no content-related strings attached. No one told me what I can or cannot say, and no one reviewed either the script or the video before it went live, other than possibly, but probably not, my girlfriend. That said, I did receive and subsequently turned down a sponsorship opportunity from Artlist late last year, in part because I knew I would be doing this and that didn't feel appropriate at all. And I also received a gift from Soundstripe celebrating a product launch that included a Fujifilm Instax camera and, more hilariously, a bag of coffee with my face on it. Additionally, I received access to the Uppbeat beta a week and a half early in order to complete this video in a timely manner and be literally the first person on YouTube with a full-on comparison that includes the fledgling service. While I do not feel that any of these compromise my ability to make this comparison fairly, if I were in your position, I'd want to know. So there you go. Now, what are we really talking about here? Well, a royalty-free music licensing subscription service is one that grants access to an entire catalog of music for a fee, and that fee is all you need to pay in order to use the music in your projects. The music is almost certainly nothing you have ever heard before, and your favorite song is definitely not included. If you want your vlog to be backed by some top 40s hit, talk to the label, or just accept that they're going to claim your video and its ad revenue like Elle Mills does. But just because you don't need to pay additional royalties based on the usage, that doesn't mean the music from these services is copyright free. It isn't. The copyright is retained by the website and or artist depending, and subscribing to the service does not give you the right to claim any of its songs as your own or try to resell them or whatever. When deciding which service is right for you, the most important question you can ask is why. Why do you want to access this music library? Are you a would-be YouTuber who wants to up their production value, a professional commercial freelancer with lots of different clients? How about a jack-of-all-trades filmmaker, podcaster, game designer looking for one service that can meet all your needs and more? For me, well, I've got this YouTube channel, obviously, and I want the ability to do more interesting vlog-style segments every so often, like a discount Peter McKinnon, and so need sweet tracks for my B-roll. But I'm also a filmmaker and not a YouTube one. I've had shorts play at a couple of festivals, and though 2020 was not particularly conducive to collaborative filmmaking, I'm hoping to get back into that this year, and it would be ideal if one music service could hit both of those needs. So in this video, I'm going to break down 6.5 services to figure out what works for me, and by extension, hopefully what works for you. And they are Artlist.io, Epidemic Sound, Filmstro, Musicvine, Soundstripe, Storyblocks, and Uppbeat. The half because Musicvine and Uppbeat are owned by the same company, but they are radically different services, so it makes sense to discuss them separately. And I know there are others I've missed, MusicBed, for example, but their support got all defensive on Twitter when I called them royalty-free, so I guess they're excluded, as was the oft-compared Premium Beat, because frankly, that's a dumb comparison. Premium Beat sells licenses for individual tracks rather than an entire catalog, which is fine, but probably not what you want if you're here. So in order to make this video, I played around with the services, listened to the various types of music they've got available, and read through licenses and FAQs. I also sent additional questions to the companies to make sure I understood what was on offer as best as I could. That said, it never hurts to do additional research of your own, and if you find out that I missed something, let me know and I will clear it up in a pinned comment, so be sure to check for that after. Given the sheer amount of information contained herein, I felt it was best to do a series of brief but comprehensive rundowns of each service's options in alphabetical order, after which we'll come back together for the final act where I'll let y'all know what I think is best for what and who and how and why. One last thing before we jump into it. This isn't my typical sort of video, and I don't intend to make more like it. If you think it's cool and it helps you, awesome. Feel free to like it and share it, but I wouldn't suggest subscribing based on it. Next week, we're going back to the Week Air Review's regularly scheduled programming. Cool? Cool. Now let's do this thing. Artlist's homepage makes a bold promise. The best license in the world, one trusted by Netflix, Google, Mercedes, and even Adobe. And it sounds a bit hyperbolic, but it's kind of hard to argue with. Not just because the Artlist license allows you to put its music in every kind of video project, from a tiny YouTube vlog to a commercial web series to a full-on feature film, but because of the way it keeps letting you do that in perpetuity. In perpetuity is a phrase that basically every service discussed here uses. But generally when they say it, it's a bit of a misdirect. The license in perpetuity only refers to projects made during your time as a subscriber. Existing projects will be safe regardless of your current subscription status, but ones made after it's ended will not. Artlist is different. After you've downloaded one of its 12,000-ish songs, that song is yours to use in any projects made while you're a subscriber, and any made after you're not, assuming they fall into the company's broad variety of acceptable categories. And it is very broad, including virtually every audiovisual medium in existence, as well as those that haven't been invented yet, and a couple of audio-only formats as well, specifically podcasts and audiobooks. Artlist's pricing scheme is also pleasantly straightforward. Each individual pays the same price, and everyone pays annually and upfront. No signing up for a month, grabbing everything you might need, and bouncing. Last time around, Artlist had only one plan, but last year they introduced sound effects, and so it has been upped to 3. Sound effects only for $150 a year, music only for $200 a year, and the whole shebang for $300. Now, if you're wondering how this is economical for them, I haven't the faintest idea, but I should mention that you can't actually download unlimited songs or sounds during your time. There is a daily cap of 40 tracks and 100 sound effects with some bot detection going on to make sure you're actually putting in the work to reach that cap, which, come on. What individual person actually needs that much music? Literally nobody. Also, for those interested in stock video, Artlist has an offshoot service called ArtGrid, which I mentioned mostly because a couple of these other services have video options as well. It offers the same awesome license usable in personal and commercial projects of all sorts and scales. And it also has 3 tiers: pre-graded HD-only clips at $300 a year, pre-graded 4K and higher clips at $480, and then raw/log 4K and higher clips at $600. Epidemic Sound's name is a lot less cute than it used to be. In 2021, I know what an epidemic sounds like, and I'm really not a fan. But even so, Epidemic Sound is definitely one of the better known services on this list. In fact, it was the first one I ever heard about back when Peter McKinnon repped it on his channel, something Epidemic highlights on their pricing page. And there is obvious appeal for this service. Epidemic has an enormous library, giving subscribers access to more than 32,000 tracks and 60,000 sound effects. Like I said, enormous. And everyone who subscribes gets access to all of it. In the olden days, creators at different levels of success paid different amounts, but the licenses have been simplified since then. For an individual, there are just 2: personal and commercial. Personal is either $15 a month or $144 for a full year paid up front, and it lets you use songs from that library in videos posted to YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitch, as well as podcasts posted wherever podcasts are posted. While those are the only services that have whitelisting tools built in, if you're a cool person who posts on TikTok or a weirdo who posts on Twitter, Epidemic's support staff will extend those licenses to the other platforms as well, but only if what you post there is the same as or related to what you've got in the main 5, which is a little odd, but whatever. The commercial subscription, costing either $49 a month or $299 for a full year, is for those whose hashtag content isn't merely personal. You know, freelancers, production houses, companies whose market cap is less than $1 billion. With the commercial license, you can clear projects for clients as well as use the music in digital ads and on any website rather than just social media platforms. It does not, however, allow you to go offline. If you want to use their music in a feature film or a TV series, you would need to step up to the enterprise subscription, whose prices aren't posted publicly. And if you have to ask, it's probably too much for you. The Epidemic Sound license allows you to download as many songs as you'd like during your time as a subscriber and use those songs in as many projects as you'd like. But as soon as your subscription lapses, you lose the ability to use that music in anything new. Existing projects remain cleared in perpetuity. There's also the chance to get one-off licenses for tracks that you want to use in a single project, with prices ranging from $99 for basic content all the way up to $3,000 for like a global TV commercial. You can also request a quote if you want something even bigger, but again, this isn't the video for you for that. Filmstro is unique in a way that will appeal to a certain segment of creatives. It is not for someone who just wants a complete track to throw down onto their timeline. It can be used for that, but if that's all you need, other services will do it better. No, Filmstro is for the kind of control freak who would download stems instead of a final premixed track because it gave them more control over their sound. And I don't mean control freak pejoratively, but I do mean it. Filmstro's gimmick is this 3-slider control system built into every single track. You get options for depth, momentum, and power, and moving them back and forth changes the song dynamically, impacting each of those somewhat nebulous concepts by bringing in or taking out certain instruments and sounds. You can play around with the sliders on the website, but to actually use the track in a project, you download the dedicated app and/or Premiere and Final Cut plugins, which give you frame-by-frame control of those sliders. Let me show you what I mean using one of the 5 demo tracks available without a subscription. And I'm gonna sit here in awkward silence while future me plays around with some sliders. think about the way the changing music impacts how you feel about me sitting here. And then think about how much more impactful it would be if I were doing literally anything else. It's a genuinely fascinating idea that works well, and even though the catalog isn't as large as other services, it's a little difficult to make a direct comparison because no two uses of the same track by you or anyone else are likely to have quite the same set of slider tweaks, making each use at least a little bit and possibly a lot a bit unique. Filmstro offers 3 tiers: YouTuber for $15 a month or $100 a year, Pro at $38 a month or $250 per year, and Pro Plus for $75 a month or $500 a year. With YouTuber, you get what you expect, the ability to use tracks in monetized YouTube videos. And though there's no explicit mention of other social media and video sites, those are covered as well as long as it's not a paid advertisement. Ads of any sort require you to step up to the Pro tier, which allows for all digital ads as well as wedding and corporate videos, and interestingly enough, games and apps. For game devs, though, the company has an offshoot called Filmstro, which sells individual tracks rather than a subscription and integrates into the Unity engine right now and apparently Unreal fairly soon, which is pretty cool and definitely a better way to go for folks interested in that aspect of it. In any case, the Filmstro Pro tier also clears short and feature films for submission and screening at film festivals, but it does not allow for broad distribution. If you want that, you will need to go Pro Plus, which allows for distribution and VOD of films or TV shows, as well as the ability to use music in ads shown in theaters, on TV, or even played on the radio. While subscribed, you are able to use any song from the catalog on any project, but once it's ended, you lose access. All projects made during your subscription remain cleared in perpetuity. If you're a YouTuber or Twitch streamer or social media influencer in 2021 looking to license music for YouTube or Twitch or social media influencing, MusicVine is almost definitely not the service you want to go with. While the company does have multiple somewhat complicated creator subscription options that we will delve into, I don't recommend it, and I think the company itself would agree considering the way its new offshoot Uppbeat cannibalizes whatever market the creator subscriptions had been targeting. No, MusicVine is unabashedly geared towards professionals, folks who know exactly where they stand and what they need. At first blush, there are 4 subscription tiers: Creator Ambassador, Creator Standard, Pro Lite, and Pro Standard. And the fact that the lower cost variants don't even follow a consistent naming structure should be your first clue that this is not nearly so straightforward. And in fact, there are 2 variants of each creator tier, and then 4 variants of Pro Standard, each of which changes the cost often drastically. So let's break them down. Not gonna lie, this is one of those times I really wish I didn't do these all in a single take. Oh well. Much of the reason MusicVine is confusing for creators specifically is that they have income limits to contend with. For every one of the base plans, your YouTube and other creator channels cannot bring in more than a combined $75,000 annually. On the creator-specific plans, it is possible to remove the limit for an additional fee, but Pro plans currently have no such option, though I have been told that's likely to change at some point this year. In addition, every plan on MusicVine is an annual plan, whether you choose to pay the year up front or be billed each month. The former costs about 20% less than the latter, but you are in for a year no matter what. For creator ambassadors, it's $168 up front or $210 over 12 payments of $1,750. For creator standard, it's $240 up front or $300 over 12 payments of $25. If you want to remove the $75,000 income cap, they jump to $492 or $615 for Ambassador and $720 or $900 for Standard. And if you're going with a creator plan, there's no good reason not to go with the cheaper option. The only difference between Ambassador and Standard plans is that ambassadors must give credit for the songs they're using, putting a link in the description, or when that's not possible, some sort of visual/spoken message letting your audience know what's playing. And that's it. Standard lets you pay a premium to be a loser who doesn't credit the artists. Don't be a loser. But now let's look at the plans you might actually want to subscribe to if you are looking at MusicFine, the Pro variants. Pro Lite costs the same as Creator Standard, $240 upfront or $300 over 12 months. And it includes everything in Creator Standard as well as a heck ton more, though there are limits on everything but weddings or life moments and student projects. Small business content must be for an organization making less than $400,000 annually. Creators and podcasters each must be making less than $75,000 from those projects, and corporate and marketing content are fine with budgets under $3,000. Indie films with budgets below $10,000 are technically covered, but the Lite license has limited distribution options and no way to expand them. Your work can be posted freely on social media platforms or screened at film festivals or events with up to 5,000 attendees, but that's it. To remove most of these limitations, you have to jump to the Pro Standard plan. But as I alluded to earlier, there's a lot going on there. The base version, which is $432 a year or $540 when paid monthly, removes caps on annual income for everyone except creators and then adds a bunch of new categories: shows/programming, documentaries, feature films, games and apps, paid advertising, and large-scale promotional materials. Some of these additions are a little misleading though, because no new distribution options are included at this tier, meaning feature films can't be sold on VOD or screened theatrically, and games and apps aren't able to be distributed on consoles or app stores. Additionally, all production budgets are capped at $10,000. And while you can remove the distribution limits and budget caps, those are separate toggles. To just remove the distribution cap, you hit $1,296 a year or $1,620 when paid monthly. To remove just the budget cap, you go up to $1,920 annually or $2,400 when paid monthly. To remove everything and have full access with any budget for any project distributed anywhere, it is an eye-popping $5,760 annually or $7,200 when paid monthly. Regardless of plan, you'll get full access to the catalog of 6,000-ish songs, but it is not a matter of downloading everything you might want and then using it when a project comes up. Instead, a new license must be generated each time you want to use a track. That per project license will last beyond the end of your subscription, but if you want to use one song in multiple projects, even subsequent episodes of a show or podcast, you will need to relicense it each time. Of course, MusicFine also lets you purchase one-time licenses, but that's somehow even more complex. There are 6 types of licenses, most of which have additional sub-licenses, and many of those sub-licenses change in price depending on the project's budget or reach, and all of them change depending on how long the track in question is. Prices range from $27 all the way up to $1,435. If you know exactly what you need and want to know exactly what it will cost, it's great. But for someone who's trying to figure things out, it's a lot to take in. All of this is a lot to take in. I'm tired. How many more of these do I have? Back when I did the simpler version of this comparison, I ended up choosing Soundstripe because at the time it was the cheapest option due to a pretty stellar Black Friday deal. So I have the most direct experience with it, and it has been entirely serviceable. Soundstripe fits an interesting niche with the licensing structure of MusicVine, but far fewer limitations on the use of its songs. Like that service, Soundstripe doesn't allow you to just bank a bunch of tracks and then go back to them whenever. Instead, you must create a new license each time a song is used, giving Soundstripe the name of the project, as well as telling them what sort of project it is. And rather unexpectedly, the music can be used for even more than the service's documentation lets on. For example, there is no mention of video games or audio advertisements anywhere on the site until you get to the licensing stage, at which point you see that both are available to you. Soundstripe just focuses on the video aspect of its license while stealthily giving you even more. And that's pretty dope, TBH. But perhaps most importantly, there are no restrictions on the project size or scale or distribution options. Your low and high budget films and series and whatever can screen on YouTube or television or in theaters. It is all good and it's all cleared. But don't forget that you'll need a new license for any recurring episodes, and songs in the library today are not guaranteed to be in the library tomorrow. So if you want to use a track as a recurring motif for your show or podcast, I wouldn't recommend doing it as a subscriber. Instead, Soundstripe at some point added a so-called lifetime license, which allows the use of a track in multiple projects outside the context of a subscription. Its $40 flat fee really feels like a shot fired at Premium Beat, whose single track fee is $49 outside of their weird subscription thing that I'm not talking about here. But if you're good with making a new license for each project, then access to the music catalog alone will run you either $150 a year or $19 a month. If you want access to the sound effects library as well, that jumps up to $245 a year or $27 a month. And they have also recently added video to their catalog, which was the product launch for which they sent me coffee with my face on it. And for that, you will be billed $500 annually or $45 a month. Adding music to video brings it to $600 a year or $55 a month. And if you want total access to everything Soundstripe has to offer, video, music, and sound effects, that will run you $650 a year or $65 a month. Okay, so here's the thing. I looked at Audioblocks the last time I was doing this, but it was an a la carte service at the time, so I put it out of my mind until literally 5 days ago when I found out that it had merged with the former Video Blocks and some other blocks, changed its business model, and subsequently become an absolute monolith of a subscription service known as Storyblocks. And part of me felt that it was too late in the process to add a whole new option to this head-to-head, especially after I had a terrible time getting answers from their customer service line. But I wouldn't have felt good about this video if I didn't include it here. Because Storyblocks is a single service with the license of Artlist and the catalog of Epidemic sound, and then some. And it's wild. Like Artlist, when you download something from Storyblocks, it is yours to keep and use in projects forever, even after your subscription has ended. And there are over 30,000 songs and 42,000 sound effects to choose from, which comes extremely close to Epidemic on the former and close enough on the latter. Slightly sketch is the fact that you need to sign up for an account before they will actually tell you how much a plan costs, which is absolutely a psychological in for a penny, in for a pound trick in the same way that their massive discounts for choosing an annual plan are. Since we're talking about music primarily in this video, I will focus on the audio plans first. There are two, basic and unlimited. Unlimited includes full access to both music and sound effects for either $180 a year or $30 a month. Basic is for a different type of person, one who only needs music and not very often. It offers 3 song downloads a month. There's no limit on which songs they are, only how many you can get. And that's all well and good, but neither is the reason to choose Storyblocks. Everything else is. They've got video-only subscriptions as well, a basic plan that includes 5 downloads of HD-only clips for $120 a year or $20 a month, as well as an unlimited one with 4K and HD footage for $240 a year or $50 a month. And then they have the whole shebang, audio, video, and a bunch of other stuff like photos and After Effects templates and what have you, which is $360 a year or $65 a month. According to the site, that is over 1 million things all told, which, good golly. One other thing unique to Storyblocks, as I understand it, is that your standard license includes $20,000 in indemnity against legal issues that could possibly arise from use of their work. If, for example, you are using Storyblocks music or photos properly, but it turns out that the person who submitted it to Storyblocks was using already copyrighted sounds or images, then the rights holder could come after you. Indemnity is basically insurance for those situations, which is pretty cool. So at this point in the video, I started complaining about how difficult it is to find Storyblocks explicitly saying how you can use its content. And while I stand by that, I wish that they had something like Artlist that just, listed all of the things it was for. It really does seem that the reason they're not explicit is because it can just kind of be used everywhere. The closest thing I found is on a licensing comparison page that says it allows for unlimited distribution via print, digital, and production, which is basically everything, right? So it's not really a justifiable criticism, even if it's something I would prefer that they had done. Let's go to the next one. Perhaps it's fitting that I've saved the newest service on the list for last, because even if it is not the best per se, it's the one that there is no reason not to sign up for. If you're like me in December 2018, someone looking for the occasional interesting track that they can put in their YouTube videos or Twitch streams or podcasts, you want Uppbeat. And even if you aren't like me in December 2018, you may as well anyway, because it's free, or at least freemium. The best comparison is something like Spotify, a service that is ad-supported and has somewhat limited functionality for the unwashed masses, as well as a paid tier for folks who want everything it has to offer unhindered. But even the paid tier is only $7 a month, making it the cheapest option on this list by a healthy margin. Now, there are 2-point-something limitations to the free version, each of which will matter a different amount to different people, but it makes this a pretty straightforward breakdown, and at this point, I love that for us. To me, the most significant limitation is that you only have access to about half of the catalog as a free user. While browsing, you can listen to all of the songs, but if there's a star beside it, you will be restricted from downloading, and that means that at launch, you've only got about 500 songs available from the 1,000-ish that the service is starting with, each of which has been selected from the larger MusicVine catalog, though as the service expands, that will change. And another way it will expand will be the addition of sound effects, which is not live at the time I'm shooting this, but may well be by the time you're watching it. I've been told it will be similar and have similar availability and restrictions, which, awesome. An obvious question is whether or not the good stuff is being kept behind that paywall, and maybe, probably. Obviously, the company would prefer you pay for its services, and I found that I liked the premium-only tracks more than the free ones, but I didn't dislike any of them. The premium ones just seemed to fit what I imagined the soundtrack of my life to be a little better. And perhaps that's me being a bougie bitch, I don't know. Your life is probably different than mine, and you may well feel differently. On some level, it doesn't matter. It is much better than it has any right to be, considering the cost or lack thereof. Less important to me, but possibly more to you, is the limitation to 10 song licenses per month. At my peak, I probably downloaded 4 or 5 tracks in 1 month, which made the whole unlimited access thing for all the services I was considering more than a little superfluous. I mean, 10 tracks gives someone with weekly uploads 2 tracks minimum to play with per video, and that is not insignificant. I mean, it's more than enough for me, and probably is for you too. While the company hasn't figured out how many sound effects will be included, I'm again sure that it will be at least enough for most folks. And again, It's free. The paid service, of course, allows for as many downloads as you can shove into your daily Minecraft uploads or whatever it is you do. Also of note, though I think not notable, is that free users aren't able to simply whitelist their channels. Instead, you receive a credit code every time you license a track, which you must put into the description of the relevant video, and the Content ID bot will see and then clear any copy strikes it may have given you on the first pass. Uppbeat says those should clear in 10 minutes or less, which is a lot less time than it will take YouTube to believe me when I say that this video won't be problematic for its advertisers. And that brings us, finally, thankfully, to the section we've all been waiting for. What should you actually get and why? So if you're a YouTuber or a Twitch streamer who just needs the occasional use of backing tracks and doesn't want to think too hard about it, Uppbeat is the way to go. For a lot of folks, 10 songs a month is plenty. And if cost is a concern, their single premium plan is not only the cheapest monthly rate by far, it is even cheaper than any service's monthly breakdown of an annual subscription. And sure, that is largely a result of their small catalog, but at the same time, how much choice does one really need? I am frequently overwhelmed by the options available to me on any given streaming service, most of which probably isn't worth my time. And when I see numbers like Epidemic's 32,000 songs or Storyblocks' 30,000, I can't help but feel like they're just taking whatever garbage people want to throw onto the service because they want to win a numbers game. And I don't necessarily mean that the songs are actual garbage. There's a lot of genuinely great stuff on those services. I am sure that there are more great songs on Epidemic or Storyblocks than songs total in Soundstripe's library, but I'd have to look harder for them. That said, Epidemic is unique in its offering of a genuine free trial. For 30 days, you get full access to its catalog and full clearance for any tracks used during that time. So, unlike other services, you can really see how much you need and what you get and how it works for you, and even how your audience responds to your musical choices before you have to fully commit. But I've always preferred any given track from the smaller catalogs of a Soundstripe or Musicvine. Artlist has reached this interesting point now that it's past 10,000 songs where it feels like maybe too much while still being more curated than the biggest services. But really, your mileage is going to vary there. I don't know what you like, and it's probably not what I like. So I would suggest if you've narrowed it down to 2 or 3 options, you spend some time navigating the sites and listening to what there is and deciding what library works best for you. And speaking of navigation, they're all pretty similar. Basic search pages with filters for genre or mood or instrument, and there are pre-made playlists or collections to help you get started. Some of the sites are definitely better than others, and I particularly appreciate the fact that Artlist and Soundstripe let you exclude as well as include filters, and I hope that becomes more broadly available over time. The only one I actively dislike is Storyblocks, and that's at least 70% because there's no dark mode. The other 30% is the fact that they clearly aren't keeping up on their playlists. At the time of recording, the first collection on their dedicated page is called The Authentic Collection, and there is nothing in it, which made me laugh really hard when I saw it. And yet, Storyblocks is probably the best deal other than Uppbeat. Those prices are shockingly low considering what you get for them. And if you want everything, you should almost certainly go with that. But think about whether you need everything. If you're on this video and made it this far, it's because you need music. But do you actually also need sound effects or video or photos? I thought I needed sound effects when I signed up for Soundstripe, and then I didn't. Whoops. And if you do need them, is it an occasional extra or is it mission critical? Because from my time perusing, I would put the actual offerings of Artgrid and Artlist above Soundstripe, above Storyblocks. But they're also way more expensive. So if you only need a video a couple of times a year, Artgrid is hella overkill. But if it's your livelihood, you should probably go for the pricier option. That said, pricing is on some level less a statement of quality than philosophy. Consider the fact that the same parent company runs both the most and least expensive services on this list, and the initial set of tracks in the latter was pulled from the library of the former. MusicVine has an older, more traditional philosophy about how artists should be paid. Both MusicVine and Soundstripe require you to get individual licenses for each use so that they can pay the artists for each use. But when Soundstripe offers to sell you a single song, it's $40 and then you have it. When MusicVine sells you a single song, that could be anywhere from $27 to $1,435 for just the one use. Because to them, someone making an international broadcast advertisement should pay way more than someone making a wedding video. And the musician whose work is used there should be compensated accordingly. And that's cool. But it's not like the people who submitted their work to Soundstripe or Storyblocks or whomever else did so under duress. No one broke into their houses, stole their hard drives, and uploaded the music without consent. And Uppbeat feels like an admission by the company that the MusicVine model isn't really right for today's creators. Now, I haven't mentioned Filmstro yet, and that's because it is having an entirely different conversation. It is cool that Filmstro's base price for creators is one of the more affordable here, but that's not why you're going to sign up or not. It's all a matter of whether you're into the idea of dynamically changing the music to match the content of your video. If you heard me talk about having frame-by-frame control over the feeling of your music and thought, yes, I want that, your choice is made. No other service is going to give that to you, regardless of how many stems or alternate versions they may offer. And really, my hope is that over the past 40-something minutes, or however long this stupid video ends up being, you have had that kind of eureka moment and seen the face of a service you wanted to swipe right on, albeit perhaps explained by a face you didn't. Every one of these services offers something different for different types of people. And whichever one you end up choosing, it'll be worth your money. And you know what? Even if you choose wrong and it turns out you needed more or less than you thought, it's not the end of the world. You get through it. Then watch this video again in a month or a year and try something new. You'll be fine. I believe in you. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you particularly to my patrons, my mom, Hamray and Marco, Kat Saracata, Benjamin Schiff, Anthony Cole, Magnolia Denton, Elliot Fowler, Greg Lucina, Werner van Alphen, Liam Knipe, Kojo, Phil Bates, Willow, and I Am the Sword. If you liked this video, that's great. If you didn't, I don't care. If you want to see more, there won't be any like this, but there are other videos if you want to check them out. That'd be cool. I don't know. Hope to see you then, maybe. Thank you. Bye. Oh, God.